So I was on LinkedIn this week again, and I saw that Target is going to be cutting 18 or 8% of its corporate jobs. So it equates to about 1,000 current positions are going to be cut. And they're also going to not fill 800 roles that they have currently out for posting and interviewing and things like that. So it's another week. It's the week of October 27th, 2025. And there's another corporation that is cutting jobs, laying people off in the spirit of efficiency, in the spirit of making things cleaner, less complex. In reading the memo from the soon to be new Target CEO, that is a lot of the language. I'm looking at it here. I'll put it on the screen, but a lot of it is to remove layers. There's a lot of complexity created over time that's been holding them back, things like that. So a lot of this, again, I made a short video about this, but then I've also talked about this in the past few videos about, this language of efficiency, this language of cutting jobs to become more lean, to become more efficient, is sort of what the mindset is of a lot of these corporations, just from what I'm seeing, especially ones that are publicly traded that need to keep Wall Street in mind when making business decisions. So it's not just about running the business and trying to do what's best for the business. It's also trying to control the optics and the perception of how the business looks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, just commentary on, my thoughts about that, and kind of have an open dialogue, but then equate it to if you're an individual contributor, and even thinking about it for myself, how do you sort of maximize the value where you're at, so that hopefully you can't control everything, right? If a company is going to do what it's going to do, that's fine, but at least adopt, for me, a mindset of trying to ensure that I'm not just coming in, I'm not just a cog in a machine, punching the clock and moving on, but I'm actually creating value and adding value and giving the company I'm working for a return on the investment that they're putting into me. But before I get into that, my name is Ryan Holguin. This is the practical place where I like to talk about business, life, sports, everything in between from a practical lens, meaning there's a lot of the macro things happening in the world, but I always try to, in my mind, my personal life, distill them down to how does it affect me? Sometimes it's fun to just talk about the 30,000 feet, perspective. But then I also try to figure out, well, what are the implications for me? And maybe that's something you do as well. And if you find that enjoyable or fruitful, I would encourage you to subscribe and join the 300 plus other subscribers here on the channel. But so as I saw last week, there was an internal memo that got, leaked out or whatever, that they're going to be reducing the corporate jobs by about 8%, which equates to, again, about that 1,800 number. And it's just always fascinating to see these things, because on one aspect of an individual contributor or middle management or whatever, there's really nothing you could have done, right? There's nothing you could have done to change the mindset of a new business leader coming in, trying to make a difference, trying to show the shareholders that I mean business when I say that I'm going to make a change and try to make things more efficient. The hard part is, a lot of these, this new CEO is coming in. What's his name is Michael Fiddicky. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And he's actually coming from, it looks like, what Target called earlier this year in 2025, the Enterprise Acceleration Office is something they created within Target. It essentially seems like it's a group that's really focused on becoming more efficient. How do we look at the business, and how do we streamline processes and systems to make sure we can go to market faster? And so that's sort of the mindset of this group. It seems like that was his perspective. And so, of course, he's being installed as a new CEO, which is great for him. And he's adopting that globally across the corporation, corporately, I guess. And so now it's affecting people. And so this week, there's going to be people that are going to be let go from Target who have probably put in a lot of good hours, a lot of time. And I'm not sitting here trying to argue whether they should keep their jobs or not keep their jobs. I'm simply looking at it from the perspective of, these are people affected, and this might be best for the business. But as an individual contributor, how do I think about tying the work that I do to the bottom line or even to the top line of the business. Because as I was reading, it seemed like half of Target's revenue is tied to discretionary spending, meaning non-essential spending. So think of, home good stuff. Think of a lot of the, home stuff, home decor, a lot of that stuff, clothing, I think is in that. I don't know how they categorize that, but think of all of that spending. And so I guess they're trying to diversify their revenue streams to make sure that the essential items are more on, are moving the needle more in terms of revenue. So they need to break away there, whereas they see competitors like Walmart doing that. And so they need to compete. They're trying to figure out a way to do that. And so cutting jobs is a good way to save capital, save money, because you're not now having to dish out a salary every 2 weeks or month to these people. Now that begs the question, it's opportunity costs. You're not paying money on the salaries now. Where is that money going to go? It'll be interesting to see where that goes in the future. I imagine you're going to hear a lot about AI. You're going to hear a lot about technology. One of my concerns with the whole AI conversation is I use AI. I enjoy AI. I think it's a great tool, and that's exactly what it should be, as a tool used to support people. And they should not substitute and replace people. And so when you have to feed AI is not a self-thinking tool. And so you have to feed it information. And so it begs the question, who is going to feed that information into the software, into the language, the large language model or whatever? What has to be a subject matter expert, somebody who understands the business, somebody who understands how that works. And then whenever it spits out information, somebody has to be on the other end to receive that, digest it, interpret it, analyze it, provide insights based on whatever those results are. So there's still a level of expertise that humans provide that AI is not going to be able to do. Now, don't get me wrong. Some businesses are a lot better at doing it than others, and there's a lot about it that I don't know. So that begs the question, right? In the short term, shareholders are going to like this. It looks good, right? You come in, you mean business, cutting jobs, all for the sake of efficiency, but you have to then make a strategic decision for the future as to where you're going to invest that money. So it'll be really interesting to watch Target and figure out what they do with that money that they're saving potentially to put into the business somewhere else. And so we'll see what they end up doing. Now, from a micro perspective, it seems like when these layoffs happen, it's internal jobs that really aren't directly affecting sales, aren't directly affecting return on investment. And it's hard to connect the dots between an individual contributor, let's say like a project manager. So like somebody like me coming from project management, a lot of the work, unless you're like a construction project manager where you're working with external stakeholders, customers, contractors, or whatever, you're working internally with internal project teams. So you work with product engineering, engineering, product management, sales, marketing, all those folks, right? Really hard to justify the work you're doing and tying that to how does this move the needle in terms of revenue that we're generating for the company. And something that I have to think about every day as I work a job like that, or if you're working a job like that, is thinking through how can I tie the work that I'm doing to show that I am actually contributing to the bottom line, that I'm contributing to moving the needle in terms of sales, in terms of revenue, in terms of growth for the company, whatever growth means for that company. That was another word that they use for growth, future growth, performance and growth. You hear that all the time. Well, what does growth mean? What are those KPIs, key performance indicators, goals, strategies, whatever you want to call them? Targets that the goals are reaching for. What are those targets that your organization's reaching for, shooting for, and how are you actually contributing to that? I think that's something that I need to think about every single day. That's something I would encourage you to think about if you're not, and try to develop a framework, develop a statement, develop something to where you can see it for yourself. Because it's one thing to come in, collect a check, get paid, doing your job, and you're doing what you're paid to do. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove and companies got to make decisions, how do they know what you're doing is actually doing anything for the company? I mean, I would like to say every job's important, but there's times where, one manager, one hiring manager gets in another leader's ear and they convince them that it's really worth making an investment into more headcount or more parts of the business. And then when times are, feast or famine, when the famine comes, it's time to cut. trim the fat. Well, the fat's going to be these jobs that are quote unquote non-essential, that aren't moving the needle in terms of revenue. And so if you are in, or you feel like you're in that sort of that range of people or employees, then maybe that's something we think about. What are we doing? What is our work doing that's actually contributing to the portfolio of the business? And start to create that narrative, start to use that language. And you're not going to build Rome in a day, but I would say start to use the language that says we're trying to stay aligned with the company's goals. We're trying to make sure that we're doing everything we can to contribute to this goal. Right? Even if you're in, so it's really hard to do that sometimes, but I think for me, it's something that I'm thinking about every day. How do I think like a leader, think like a business leader? And on any rainy day, if somebody's going to come and ask me, what are we doing to move the needle? What am I doing to move the needle? I want to be ready for that at any moment. So that's going to look different for everybody. If you're in a marketing context and, all you do is, work on the website, for instance, well, the website isn't directly, and your business to business or even your B2C, right? You can track sales online. So maybe that's something you look at. That's low hanging fruit. You look at, well, how many sales are we getting based on the new enhancements we're making on the website? Or we're doing a marketing campaign, but it's a brand awareness campaign, or it's just an awareness campaign. And so in terms of the marketing funnel, we're still really early in that process. Well, how do we still ensure that we're moving the needle? Well, you can look at sales. You can start to paint pictures. You can start to reach out to salespeople. It's going to be a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of digging, but it's certainly worth it to sort of prove the value that you guys are bringing to the table. And just to tell yourself that you're actually doing something that's helping the company, contributing to their growth, contributing to actually serving the industry, serving the customer. So yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of thoughts, but this is going to continue to happen until, the world ends. But, it's always going to go back to return on investment. Where's the money going? And if we can't justify that these jobs are actually contributing to the bottom line, contributing to sales, then what's the point of having them, especially when the famine comes? And so, really interesting to think about. Just another company that's having to make cuts because of their stock dropping. I think it said it was down 30% year to date in 2025. So that's not good. It's pretty interesting. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Is this, do you work for Target? What's your perspective on that? If you work for Target, if you're keeping up with this, let me know on that. Or even if you're on your own personal journey, working in corporate America or within a company, and how are you sort of managing how to display the value that you're bringing to the table for the company. Let me know in the comments below. Be curious to have a dialogue there. If you found this video insightful or helpful, I'd encourage you to like it, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed, so that you can keep up. I try to post at least once a week. At least lately I've tried to do that, and just keep the dialogue going in terms of business and things like that, because I'm interested in those things. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. Until next time, this is A Practical Place. I'm Ryan Holguin. I will see